The most twisted parenting instincts in the animal kingdom. Let's start with the mildly deceptive and work our way toward the kind of parenting that will make you call your own mother immediately after this video. I should mention that I am, without any formal training whatsoever, the world's foremost authority on parenting, having never actually raised anything myself. But I've watched enough of it happen to other creatures to feel qualified, so let's get into it. Number 13. The common cuckoo. A female cuckoo never builds a nest, never sits on an egg, and never feeds a single chick in her entire life, which honestly sounds like a scam even before we get to the part where she commits actual crimes. Instead, she sneaks into another bird's nest, quietly removes one of the host's eggs, and replaces it with her own, timed to hatch a day or two earlier than the rest. The moment the cuckoo chick hatches, still blind and featherless, it instinctively backs itself under each remaining egg or chick one at a time, and pushes them out of the nest entirely, until it's the only baby left. The host parents, who are usually only a fraction of the cuckoo chick's eventual size, then spend weeks exhausting themselves feeding a baby that isn't theirs and also just evicted every child that was. It's basically the animal kingdom's oldest custody scam, and somehow the victims never even find out. Easy. Number 12. Burying beetles. Beetle parents can raise litters of over 30 larvae from a single small carcass, but only if that carcass is actually big enough to feed all of them, which is already a lot of pressure for two beetles who never got a baby shower. If the parents assess the food supply can't support the full litter, they begin eating some of their own larvae, one at a time, in a documented process researchers call brood reduction, until the group size matches what's actually available. It's the coldest budget meeting in nature, and the agenda item is always the same. Somehow, beetles still communicate this decision better than most group projects ever manage to. Moving on. Number 11. Naked mole rats. Naked mole rat colonies run almost like a tiny underground dictatorship, and there is exactly one female allowed to reproduce, the queen. She maintains total control not just through physical dominance, but through hormones that actively suppress fertility in every other female in the colony for as long as she's alive. Every other mole rat, regardless of what it might personally want, ends up drafted into permanent worker or babysitter duty for pups that biologically aren't theirs. It's an entire society organized around one individual's parenting monopoly, which is either the most efficient system in nature or the least consensual. And honestly, it's a little bit both. Simple. Number 10. Spotted hyenas. Hyena cubs are born with their eyes already open and fully functional teeth already in place, which should immediately tell you something about how this entry ends. Within days of birth, same-sex twin siblings frequently begin fighting each other for dominance and access to their mother's milk, and these fights are not symbolic. They can and do end in the death of the weaker cub. The mother does not step in to stop it, because this isn't an accident of hyena biology, it's a built-in reproductive strategy that ensures only the strongest cub survives to adulthood. So some hyena mothers are, in the most literal sense possible, raising whichever child won a fight she chose to let happen. There's no joke here. That one's just genuinely dark. Number 9. American alligators. This is the same animal capable of one of the strongest bite forces of any living creature on Earth, easily strong enough to crush a turtle shell without slowing down. And yet, when her eggs finally hatch, the mother alligator gently picks up each hatchling in her mouth, one at a time, and carries them safely from the nest all the way to the water. She'll defend that nest viciously against anything that gets close, using the exact same jaws, then switch instantly into what can only be described as suspicious tenderness the moment her babies need transport. It's the parenting equivalent of watching someone who could absolutely destroy you choose not to, over and over, entirely on purpose. Number 8. Emperor penguins. The moment a mother lays her single egg in the brutal Antarctic winter, she immediately hands it off to the father and leaves for the ocean to feed, sometimes for up to 2 months straight. The father balances that one egg on top of his feet, tucked under a warm fold of skin, and does not eat again until she returns, often fasting for close to 4 months total, while temperatures around him regularly drop below -60 degrees. Thousands of fathers huddle together in a slow-moving circle for warmth, constantly rotating from the freezing outer edge toward the center, so no single bird freezes for too long, all just to keep one egg alive until it hatches. Every human parent who has ever complained about a rough night with a newborn should probably sit with that for a second. Number 7. Mouth-brooding cichlid fish. After laying her eggs, the mother scoops every single one into her mouth and keeps them there for roughly 2 to 3 weeks straight, protecting them from predators the entire time. During this entire period, she doesn't eat, since her mouth stays permanently occupied with her own offspring. Even after the fry hatch and start swimming freely, they'll dart straight back into her mouth at the first sign of danger, treating her as a mobile panic room, and she keeps starving herself to accommodate it for as long as they need her to. It's parenting so literal that the phrase "keeping your kids close" stops being a metaphor entirely and just becomes a biological fact. Number 6. The spider species Stegodyphus lineatus, and this one is genuinely one of the most extreme sacrifices in the entire animal kingdom, so brace yourself. After her eggs hatch, the mother spider begins liquefying her own internal organs and regurgitates the resulting fluid directly to feed her spiderlings. Once that runs out, the spiderlings climb onto her body and begin consuming her alive, and researchers who study this species have confirmed she does not resist at any point in the process. She spends the literal final act of her life being eaten by the children she raised, and by every measurable standard biologists use, this counts as a successful parenting outcome for the species. Moving on, because there's genuinely nowhere to go after that. Number 5. Gray wolves. Wolf parenting was never a two-parent job to begin with, it's a whole-pack job by design. According to decades of field research from L. David Meck, who spent 13 consecutive summers directly observing wild wolves on Ellesmere Island, subordinate pack members who aren't even the pup's biological parents will regularly hunt on their behalf, then return to the den and regurgitate partially digested meat directly for the pups to eat. Older siblings from previous litters frequently babysit the newest pups while the rest of the pack is out hunting for the group, which means every wolf pup alive today was, in a very real and documented sense, raised by an entire committee that never once had an actual meeting about it. Number 4. The giant Pacific octopus. A mother octopus lays tens of thousands of eggs inside a den and then simply does not leave, not once, for the entire incubation period, which can stretch anywhere from 4 to 10 months depending on water temperature. She continuously fans the eggs with her arms to keep them oxygenated and carefully cleans them to prevent fungal growth, all while never eating again for the rest of her life. By the time her eggs finally hatch, she has almost always starved to the point of visible physical deterioration, and she dies within days of her babies swimming away for the first time. She never gets to meet a single one of them as anything more than an egg. Number 3. Elephants. Elephant herds practice something researchers call allomothering, where every adult female in the group, not just the biological mother, actively helps protect, guide, and even nurse a young calf. Cynthia Moss, who has studied the elephants of Amboseli, Kenya for over 40 years, has documented entire matriarchal families organizing their movements specifically around the safety of their youngest members at all times. But elephants also grieve, in ways that are difficult to describe as anything else. Research led by Joyce Poole, who has spent 30 years studying elephant behavior across Kenya, has recorded mothers standing motionless over the body of a dead calf for days at a time, gently touching it with their trunks, and returning to that exact same spot for years afterward. This isn't just instinct anymore. This is closer to something we'd recognize instantly if we saw it in a person. Number 2. Orcas. Female orcas stop reproducing decades before they actually die, making them one of only a small handful of species on Earth, humans included, where menopause happens at all. Research associated with Darren Croft at the University of Exeter has shown that these postmenopausal grandmothers become the primary decision-makers for their entire pod, drawing on decades of accumulated memory to lead the group toward food during the hardest years. And it doesn't stop there. These same grandmothers continue actively sharing food with their adult sons, sometimes for the sons' entire lives, well into their 30s and 40s. A grown, fully capable orca still eating fish his mother personally caught for him, decades after he was clearly able to catch it himself. If that sounds familiar, it's because it probably should. Number 1. Chimpanzees. But let me stop joking for a second. Imagine you're a mother, and you're carrying your child through the forest, exactly like you have 1,000 times before, And one day, they simply stop moving, and they never move again. Field researchers, building on decades of observation, first pioneered by Jane Goodall at Gombe, have documented chimpanzee mothers continuing to carry their dead infants for days, sometimes for weeks, grooming them, gently repositioning their small bodies, carrying them through the trees exactly the way they did when the infant was still alive. Frans de Waal, whose career at Emory University focused specifically on empathy across species, pointed to this exact behavior as proof that grief in animals isn't something we're simply projecting onto them because we want it to be there. It's real, and it looks almost unbearably close to how ours does. Somewhere right now, an animal mother is holding on to something she already knows she's lost, simply because letting go is somehow the harder thing to do. And if you've ever held on to anything a little too long, a relationship, a memory, a person who was already gone in every way that mattered, you already understand this better than any of us are willing to admit out loud.